Hello, everybody. Thank you today for joining us on Robbie South Teaches How Money Works, the podcast where you learn about money, how to make your money work for you. Today, we're going to have a very special guest, Brenda. She is a loan student. Now, let me back up here. A student loan expert, and that's what she works with day in and day out. And I know there's a lot of confusion going on right now with everything that's going on out there. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
I'm glad you could be able to join us.
This is my first podcast. So,
Oh wow! Well, we'll have to
yeah.
see if we can get you on here more often. Then you know you're gonna have
All
lots
right.
of good information.
So, you want me to jump in?
Sure, go ahead. Give us a little bit of your background if you don't mind, and then just kind of the current situation of what right now is going on with student loans because there's so much confusion from what I see on TV. One day you hear that they're going to give student forgiveness up to a certain pay level, or they're going to give everybody forgiveness, and it's just a lot of back and forth and a lot of confusion.
Well, first, a little bit about me. I have always been an entrepreneur and never made a really good employee. So, I am partnered with a business called US Processing Solutions, and we help people do the enrollment paperwork for student loan forgiveness programs. It's called income driven repayment. And there's two parts to the program. The first part is where the payment is calculated based on your ability to pay, how much you're earning, how many people you support. The second part of the program is if at the end, after making all the required payments, there's a balance, the Department of Education is going to forgive any remaining principal and any interest that's accrued. So forgiveness is a part of the program, but it is not guaranteed because you could start out at a very low income and over a 20-year period start earning enough to pay off the loan. So the goal of the program is to give borrowers the ability to make their payments and still be able to afford a lifestyle, to still allow them to buy a home, invest in retirement, or for some people, just feed their children. So entry into the program is available to every single student loan borrower. If your loans were not eligible before, you can consolidate them and make them eligible. Every student loan borrower is eligible. It's a matter of whether it's a benefit. Somebody making $150,000 with 20,000 in student loans, the program doesn't work because their income is so high. But somebody with 150,000 and 400,000 in student loan debt, now the program works because it lowers the payment to that ability to pay. So maybe on a $4,000 payment on 400,000 in loans, we can lower that payment to 1,500. They're still paying their fair share. They're just not paying so much that they cannot afford to have a life. So
Okay.
that's the goal of the program, to make payments affordable and keep people in good standing. You hear a lot about, oh, I can get your payment to zero. Maybe. It just really depends. If you have a very low income, then maybe your payment will be zero. But if things change over the term and your income goes up, you will start paying and you may or may not reach forgiveness. So there's a lot of, stuff out there. Oh, we can get your loans forgiven. There's no guarantee that the loans are going to be forgiven if your income pays them off. If there's a balance, yes, the forgiveness is guaranteed.
Okay.
So this is not a quick fix. This does not get somebody out of their student loan debt. And that's a real misconception. A lot of people think, oh, I never have to pay on my loans. I can get them forgiven. That's not what the program's about. Yes, if you have somebody who never earns enough to make a payment, then their payment could stay at zero. This is an opportunity for you to manage your student loans and still have a life.
Okay.
So there's a lot of information going on right now about what the administration's going to do.
Mhm.
So today they announced that they're going to make a decision tomorrow, and more than likely they're going to give $10,000 to anybody whose income is under $125,000.
Wow.
What a nightmare.
Yeah.
What a nightmare, because now you have to apply for this 10,000. It is not a blanket forgiveness like he was talking about. If they do this, you have to apply for that 10,000 with the Department of Education and verify your income.
Uh-huh.
For somebody who has $100,000 in student loans, I don't think they're going to bother doing it, because 10,000, maybe they will, maybe they won't. 25% of student loan borrowers have $10,000 or less. Of that 25%, how many's income are under 125,000? Who knows? I've spoken to people, most of the people I speak with, I'd say 90% of the people that I help have an income under 125,000. So I think it's going to benefit about 25% of the borrowers.
Wow.
That's leaving the other 75% with their loan payments.
Wow.
So
And it's
because
from what
because
I've been hearing, so many people think this is going to be just a blanket wipeout. But what you're saying is going to be nowhere near that. Not even maybe one, maybe a quarter of the people will get it. Wow.
the problem with student loans there's two main issues with student loans. One is the cost of tuition. I've spoken with people who are paying 80,000 a year for private institution.
Uh-huh.
Now they're going to get a teaching degree. Okay, so now you have 320 some $1,000 in debt, and maybe you earn 65 or 70,000. So how does somebody making 75,000 pay a $3,000 student loan payment or $4,000 student loan payment? It doesn't work.
No, not at all.
It doesn't work. That's right there is the problem.
Uh-huh.
So the Department of Education bases their loans on the school and the degree. It's not always, it has nothing to do with credit. So yeah, student loans are not credit based.
So anybody that's in school can apply for a student loan and get it. Is that accurate?
So there's a certain amount that they'll be eligible for, but it is not based on their credit.
Wow. So
So it just really depends on the school and the degree, and for young borrowers, whether, what their parents are earning. So it's based more on the parents' income,
okay.
on how much is going to be eligible. If the parents have a very high income, then the student has a very low amount, maybe 5,500. So now 5,500 isn't paying, 30 or 40,000. So
Uh-huh.
they go to the parents and they say to the parents, wow, you have really good income and really good credit. You take out the loan. So now the parent is taking out 30 or 40,000 a year.
Wow.
And the parents are in their 40s or 50s getting ready to retire, right?
Yeah,
Gearing up.
exactly.
And then they're not thinking. And then 4 or 5 years later, they have a $1,000 a month payment on their child's education.
Wow. So that brings up another whole basket of worms for me
Mm.
because one that's huge to me is if you're in a low income setting, and you said that the more lower income, the more you can borrow, if I understood you correctly. So if you're in
Right.
a low
Makes
income
sense.
setting and you can borrow more,
Mm.
that's almost like setting you up for failure to start with, because that's
Bingo.
going to affect your credit score because you're going to have a loan, and then you're going to come out of school with this education and everybody's going to tell you need, and you can get a great paying job. But then when you get out there, well, you don't have any experience, you don't have ABC, whatever, so you have a hard time finding a job. So they're really, the way I'm looking at it, setting you up for failure from the beginning.
So, in addition to that debacle that they've created, now interest is what they call simple daily accruing interest that starts to accumulate on unsubsidized loans the day the funds are dispersed. So, for example, a $10,000 loan taken out as a freshman when you graduate is about 12,000. So you're already behind.
Wow.
You're already behind.
Exactly, and I know you're pretty familiar with the rule of 72, but for our audience, that's huge. The rule of 72, real quick, cap on that. You take 72 divided by your interest rate. That's all it's going to take your money to double. So you're getting behind quickly, like you're saying. So more money loans, higher interest rate. This just looks like a disaster setting up at a young age. I mean, how do they expect the students and the young adults, when they're not taught financial education in any form in schools, how do they expect them to know this stuff and survive and move forward? I mean, because this one segment right here can put you bankrupt from in no time.
Well, student loans aren't eligible for bankruptcy.
Oh wow, that's another problem. So you're stuck with that debt.
So the Department of Education will attempt to collect your student loan payments until you're in the grave. I have clients who have fallen behind and gone into collections and had their Social Security checks garnished from the Department of Education. I've seen
Wow.
disability checks garnished from the Department of Education because they will discharge your loan if you are 100% disabled.
Uh-huh.
But if you're 80%, they won't discharge the loan.
Wow.
So it's a bad system. And there isn't anything that Biden or Trump or any other president has done to really correct what the problem is. If you make payments affordable,
Mhm.
you know, do something with the interest rate, make it an annual percentage rate. You
Right.
know, I don't know that there's really a good long-term answer because schools are not lowering their tuition.
No, they're going up about every year.
High schools are still pushing kids to go into these 4-year degrees instead of maybe a 2-year technical that, is going to, give them the ability to earn a decent living and not be burdened with student loans. They're talking about making the first 2 years of of college free in a lot of states.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's great if they stopped there, but they're not going to stop there. They're going to go on to that 4-year degree because they've been told this glory story
Yes.
about, once they have their degree, they're going to make so much more money, throughout the life of their career. You can make them. I've seen it on TV. If you get your college degree, you'll earn $1 million more than if you don't. Okay, so $1 million over 40 years. I mean, it's still the math doesn't work.
Right, and we need those trades persons to do the trades. I mean, you can't, nothing against
Right.
four-year colleges at all,
And I don't either.
but you can't have every single person in our country sitting in the office with the four-year degree. You have to have the trade skills.
Well, you can also train somebody to be a teacher in 2 years, just eliminate all the perfunctory, classes that are not needed that
Very
go
true.
with the degree.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, there's some answers. They do have the public service loan forgiveness, which is what you and I have spoken about before.
Uh-huh.
So, if you work for a nonprofit or the government, you only have to pay on your loans for 10 years or 120 payments, and then they're forgiven.
Right.
So, a huge difference between public service and standard loan forgiveness is public service loan forgiveness. When your loans are forgiven, they are non-taxable.
Oh,
So
good.
if you get $30,000 in forgiveness, you don't owe taxes on that.
Wow.
If you're in the standard forgiveness, which is 20 years, so that 30,000 probably doubles to 60,000,
Uh-huh.
the Department of Education will send you a 1099 for cancellation of debt for
Wow.
that 60,000 that the IRS considers income, and you now owe taxes on it.
Wow, what a difference. Now, you said that if you was in public service, firefighter, EMT,
Mm,
teacher, that type of stuff, nonprofits, you may get forgiveness after 10 years.
You
Now,
will get, yeah.
you will, okay. Now, are there any kind of hiccups that may cause you not to be able to get that, like you've gotten some bad information? Because I know for years I
Right.
was getting phone calls, refinance your student loan here. Let's do this. Let's get your student loan down. Whatever there's call was about. What if somebody gets one of those calls and they're like, man, that's a good, I'm gonna get my payment lowered down. Is it a good idea to refinance your loans to try
No.
to get a better option?
So it's a case by case situation, but essentially, the federal loans offer the lower repayment plans. They offer forgiveness. They offer forbearance if it's needed. If you refinance that to a private student loan, all of that is gone. That loan is now no different than a car payment.
Wow.
So I only recommend refinancing a federal loan to a private when it's a very low loan and they have very high income. I have more horror stories than I can count. So I was speaking with a woman who is a physician at one of the nonprofit hospitals in New York, and they convinced her to take over $300,000 in her federal loans private because it lowered her interest rate from 7% down to 3%, but she has to pay them off. Had she stayed in the program, she would have gotten forgiveness. So it's a very, case by case, but I maybe recommend 10% of the people I speak with to refinance to private. And that's when their loans are pretty low and their income's pretty high. But I want to address getting phone calls. My business, when I help people, is through referrals.
Uh-huh.
So I do partnerships with different financial advisors or realtors or mortgage brokers or previous clients. All the people I deal with have a connection
Uh-huh.
in some way. Companies that do robocalls are looking out for their interests. It's
Very
like
good
the
point.
Department of Education is looking out for their interests.
Yes.
When I help somebody, and yes, I do charge a fee. I'm not, um,
Make a living.
but my goal is to help my client.
Right.
So I'm very careful in really evaluating their situation very long term, because what might work for somebody today based on their career goals and their family, it may not work for them in 10 years.
Exactly.
So you have to take a look, because being in this program, if you start out in the program and you end up knowing you're going to earn a lot more money, you could end up paying more in interest with
Right.
this program than if you didn't. So it's really important that you look at a very long-term picture. But the one thing I will tell you is the government's not going to solve your student loan problems. They're just not. This is something that I see so many people play ostrich with, because you can't repossess a degree. They can repossess your car, they can foreclose on your home, but they can't take that degree away. So people put it way on the back burner. The
Ooh.
problem is they will never stop coming after you.
And to and correct me if I'm wrong here, but that's a loan, and loans will affect your credit and follow you for as long as you have that loan taken out, whether it's 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, or whatever. And
Mhm.
as you stated, you work with financial professionals and some mortgage brokers, different things like that. So, am I wrong in saying that it was better to get this student loan situation handled more sooner rather than later? Because could it affect you in getting a car loan, a job, any type of thing like that to help advance yourself in bettering your own life?
Absolutely. There are certain certifications, such as for nurses, um, federal employees. If your student loans are more than 90 days past due, federal employees will be put on notice and will be terminated if they're not brought into compliance.
Oh, wow.
Nurses seeking recertification, if their student loans are in default, cannot get recertification. You cannot get a FHA or VA loan if your student loans are not in good standing. Many places you can't get a car loan if your student loans are not in good standing. Federal employees will be terminated if their student loans go into default.
Wow. So this could really affect your livelihood, and that's huge. And I don't think this is really on the front burner enough. People want to just push it back, delay it, and I've known some people that did that. But man, you brought some really great information that I had no clue about, and I think that's something that should be discussed more. Because without the education, how do people really know what to do and what avenues to take? So we're going coming into the last few minutes of closure here. If someone wanted to reach out to you, how would they be able to do that?
So we have a website, usprocessingsolutions.com, but you can also just give me a call or a text. And my number is 702-625-3556. Texting is always better because I'm on the phone a lot. But the one thing that's so important is just because you have student loan debt doesn't make you a bad person. So many people are really embarrassed to admit that they have student loans still, or that they're having trouble paying those student loans. And that's why it amazes me it's such a hot topic with the news and the politicians, because only 15% of US citizens have student loans.
Oh, wow.
43 million people have student loans, approximately.
Mhm.
Well, there's 330 US adults, 330 million US adults. So what? That's about 12%. Am I
Yeah,
doing my math
yeah.
correctly?
Wow.
So I'm not really sure why this is such a hot topic. It's not
I
like it's affecting
I have an
80%.
idea, but I don't wanna go down that trail right now, you know what I'm saying? But,
Nobody is, they stopped the moratorium on foreclosures and evictions a
right.
year ago.
Yes.
Why they've kept this on student loans, I don't understand. Maybe, because it's a government loan as opposed to private loans, but I'm not really sure when the government is spending so much money and is in so much trouble, they're not collecting on student loans. It just kind of amazes me. I'm a little dumbfounded about the way the politicians have grabbed onto student loans. It's not, like I said, almost everybody's got a mortgage or rent.
Right, exactly. And I didn't realize that was such a low number compared to the population. That is really low, but they're making it sound like it's just some huge problem when you watch the
No,
mainstream media and all that. And it's
at
not as
most,
bad
it's
as
at most it's 25% of the country.
right. And then that's
And
still
so
not much.
they're, what about the other 75%? They really don't care,
Right. Wow. Well,
right?
this has been eye-opening, very eye-opening. Wow. All right. Well, thank you again for coming
My
on the show
pleasure.
today. Uh, Maybe we can have you on again later, a different date.
Absolutely.
Because seems to be a revolving issue, things constantly changing. You know
I
how it
think they're
goes.
going to make a big announcement tomorrow, and I think a lot of people are going to be angry and disappointed. It's not what they were expecting. And what a nightmare having to prove your income to the Department of Education to get 10,000. Can
Oh
you
yeah.
imagine the overwhelming issues on all these people applying? So you've got 40 some million people going onto a government website. What a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely.
What a nightmare.
Now, one more quick question for you. Would you recommend that that individual try to work with the government on getting this paperwork through, or is it better to work with a professional like yourself?
I think it really depends on the situation. I think if it's very simple, I think if you're very low income and your loans are in the $10,000 range, it doesn't make sense to pay me, um, and I think the government is going to issue instructions. But I think if you have somebody that has higher income, maybe 80, 90, 100,000, they've got 70, 80,000 in loans, then yes, coming to somebody like me, in addition to helping them get that 10,000, we're going to deal with the balance that's left. Like I said, 75% of the borrowers, this is going to mean nothing to. So, it helps. Yes. If you have 100,000 and they give you 10,000, yeah, it's nice, but it's not, you still have $90,000 and a $900 payment to make.
Absolutely.
So yes, with higher debt, I think it's absolutely worth a consultation, and my consultations are completely free. I don't charge anybody unless I'm a benefit and a value, and I do a lot of free education, um, which is why I like people to text me because I'm on the phone a lot.
Right. All right. Well, if you missed Brenda's number, you can always reach out to me. I can get in contact with her as well. If you have any questions, get hold of me at robbiesouth.com. Got a calendar up there, all my information. Feel free to reach out. We want to get you the help that you deserve and you need to make sure that you are taken care of. Thank you for listening. See you next time.